Hello, watch enthusiasts. Now, today I'd like to do a general, a general roundup on the channel and how it's doing at the moment, and thank you for your kind support. And equally talk about a bit of news about Rolex, for example, and I'd like to talk about why I really like the Rolex case style, why I like that oyster style case. So I'll just be using this Daytona homage, this Alpha Daytona, as an example. So I'll just put it to one side for a moment. So first of all, I'd like to thank you all for subscribing. I'll put it back here; it looked rather nice. I'd like to thank you all for pushing my subscriber count up to over 500, which is really beyond anything I'd ever dreamed of with this channel. I was expecting it to just be a little endeavour, if you will, but it's ended up being just extremely I'm just extremely surprised and pleased to see that people like it. So I thank you very, very much for subscribing and for watching my videos. So in terms of news, especially about the channel, I have now set up an email. So if anyone has any queries, I've added it to the description of every video. So if anyone has any queries about anything, wants to ask a question, have a discussion about something, for example, in horology, then feel free to email me, and the email is in the description, but it is questions for ATWG, so I'm on the watch guy, at gmail.com. But check the description for the actual email address. So that will hopefully allow you to ask any questions about the channel or about general watch news more directly, rather than having to rely on the YouTube the normal comments that you can put on YouTube video. So that should make things easier. But if you do only have just sort of a line or something to say, then feel free to just put it into my comments, because it'll be more convenient. But for any longer pieces, any questions, feel free to email me. Now, in terms of watch news, I have heard some information that Rolex are beginning to sell, admittedly in their first small batches, they're beginning to sell the watches released at Baselworld. So, for example, some of the new Daytonas have emerged and have jumped onto the market. So I know that a couple of people on, for example, Hodinky, I believe, have received their Daytonas. So that'll be interesting. Now we'll be able to have a look at these new Cerachrom bezels with this new design, which does sort of diverge from the very classic design of these old Daytonas. As you can see from this, it's a very simple arrangement for the tachymeter, whereas the new ones have a much more modern take on them. And I must say, I really do like it. I think that the previous generation of Daytonas looked a bit dated and a bit clunky. They sort of looked like a vestige of the 90s. So I think it's a nice addition to the range to see all these new bezels dragging the Daytona range out of the dark. Also, I do believe they are beginning sales of the day date, so the new rose gold day date with the green dial, which I particularly liked. Despite how gaudy it was, I just thought it was a really elegant piece. Albeit I doubt I could pull off wearing a solid rose gold watch with a bright green dial like that. But I suppose that all relies on the individual themselves. Anyway, in terms of the actual sort of meat of the video, I'd like to talk about the reason why I like Rolex watches from a wearability and design aspect. And I'm going to use this sort of homage because it's such a perfect repro of a period, so 1960s Daytona, because that was my particular favourite era. I could show you some other Rolex cases that, some Rolex worn by other relatives, but I think this one illustrates it the best because it has the sort of largest sides, and yes, and it also leads on to next or Wednesday's instalment, which is going to be a nice talk about the sort of homage fake world and where I stand with regards to that. but I'll save that for Wednesday. So, anyway, now this is the standard Oyster case. So it's the standard Oyster design for a Rolex, as most of my viewers, I'm sure, know. But I've heard from several people recently, some of my friends, some viewers, that they find that Rolex cases can be a tad generic, a tad boring. And it's true, actually, some of them can be, because it is a similar design. But I think in terms of the style of these cases and the comfort, nothing comes close. So the key points about the Oyster case are, of course, the fact that it has these defined lines with these tops curling down, and these flat, slightly curved. They're soft to the touch, unlike a lot of homages which go for straight flat sides, which do sort of miss this soft design that Rolexes have. And it's sort of a trademark thing, if you will, with a Rolex to have those soft sides, albeit the dress ones have more curved edges. So on the wrist, and I'm going to use this as a demonstration because it is, as you can see down to the very case back, it sits on the wrist like a period Daytona. So you can see it just sits, especially if you look at from the side of the wrist. Most of the watch isn't actually in contact with my skin. The case back sort of lifts it slightly proud. And equally, apart from that adding to the comfort, the shape of it follows the shape of the wrist. Whether or not you have flat or rounded wrists, these lugs just hug the wrist so nicely. And it really does show that that Rolex is a leading brand. The fact they're not willing to sort of go and try other designs, if you will, because they've perfected this one to the extent they have. And equally, the Oyster bracelet, albeit this is a pretty poor example compared to a real one, because the real ones do just feel so solid these days. But in the 60s, they were around this sort of level of quality, so I'll go with this. But again, this sort of has the minimum amount of links needed to make a watch really comfortable on the wrist, and equally this makes for easy changes of size for the bracelet. So it's their cases may be generic, but they're very, very well made and well designed. So yes, they are well made and well designed, and they fit the style very, very nicely, which is something I think a lot of other brands can't really say. So, for example, when I tried on a Seamaster Planet Ocean just recently, I found that they're just too high. For example, the sides of the watch, it sits too proud of the wrist, and that's something that I haven't found with any of the Rolex models. So, though they may be boring in terms of their design, they may not change very much. They're so well executed that it makes up for this, and the comfort factor of these cases just outweighs the cons. So yes. So that was today's question from a viewer. So if you do have any more questions, do feel free to drop me an email. So this has been a fairly brief episode from me, but this was just an update and a thank you for the 500 subscribers. So thank you very much for watching. This is I'm on the Watch Guy. Again, do like, share, and subscribe if you liked the content, and do have a look at my other videos. Over and out.